I never thought humiliation could have a taste. But that morning at JFK International Airport, I swear I could feel it, bitter like rust, sharp like broken glass dissolving on my tongue. Maybe it began even before the officer touched me, before the whispers, before my daughter's fingers trembled inside mine. Maybe it started the moment we stepped through those sliding doors and breathed the cold, recycled air of a place where everyone was rushing forward, except me. My name is Ariana Carter, 32 years old, Black, single mother. People hear that and think they already know my story, like my skin is a punchline and my motherhood a warning label. But they don't know the nights I spent counting coins under a dull kitchen bulb, or how many times I pretended not to hear my daughter cry so I could cry first. They don't know what it costs to hold yourself together when the world keeps tearing at your edges. That day, we were flying to Los Angeles, my first flight in 7 years, my daughter's first ever. Her name is Nia, 6 years old, gap-toothed smile, hair tied in beads that clicked when she walked. She held her stuffed bunny, Hazel, so tight the fur was thinning. I told her we were going on a big adventure, but truth was I was terrified. Airports make people like me feel like intruders, tolerated only if we move quietly, smile politely, spend money without complaint. We arrived early, luggage cheap and scuffed, clothes neatly folded to hide their age. I wore my best, a navy blouse ironed flat, jeans without holes, hair pressed the night before with trembling hands because presentation matters when you're not given the benefit of the doubt. On my phone, the flight confirmation email flickered. VIP guest speaker access. Even now I didn't believe it. Me? A woman who once slept on a mattress that smelled like rain-soaked cardboard. But I wasn't flying for vacation. I was flying because after years of speaking at small community meetings and shelters, someone finally listened. They wanted me to speak at a national youth support conference. Me, the girl who used to clean bathrooms at that same airport. Nia skipped ahead, beads clicking like tiny applause. "Mommy, are we really going on a plane? Up in the sky like birds?" "Yes, baby," I smiled, "up in the sky." Her joy warmed me. I needed that warmth more than I admitted. We joined the security line, long and slow like a snake curling through metal rails. People glanced at us, then away, that silent measurement. I'm used to it. I've lived inside that glance my whole life. It usually passes. But that day, it lingered. Ahead, a white couple whispered while looking at me. Their eyes slid down my clothes, my daughter, our luggage. The woman clutched her purse closer. I pretended not to notice. I've pretended all my life. When we finally reached the front, TSA scanned our boarding passes. The man barely looked at me, but something changed the moment I handed Nia's passport. It was brand new, her first, shiny pages stiff from lack of use. I saw judgment flicker behind his eyes. His brow arched with suspicion I had done nothing to earn. "You two traveling together?" he asked. "Yes," I answered calmly. "You the mother?" "I am." He stared like the answer wasn't enough. I felt the line behind me grow impatient. I felt heat crawl up my neck, that old familiar shame that arrives uninvited. He waved to someone behind him. A uniformed airport cop approached, tall, pale, jaw tight like he was already angry. His hand rested on his holster casually, the way a bully rests a boot on your pride. "What's the issue?" the officer asked. "Possible document concern," the TSA man said, low but not low enough. People heard. Eyes turned. My stomach dropped. The officer, his badge read O'Donnell, looked me up and down. Not my face. Not my daughter, me, like inventory. "Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to step out of the line," he ordered. My throat tightened. Nia squeezed my hand. "Is something wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We'll sort it out." He said it like a threat. People were staring now, heads turning, whispers like buzzing mosquitoes. A white man behind us sighed loudly, annoyed at the delay. A woman pulled her child closer. I became a spectacle, a problem clogging up their morning. Nia's voice shook. "Mommy, did we do something bad?" My heart cracked clean through. "No, baby, we're fine." But I wasn't sure anymore. O'Donnell led us aside to a small inspection space near the metal detectors, open enough for everyone to watch, closed enough to feel trapped. I hated how my hands shook when I handed him our IDs. He looked Nia's passport again, eyes narrowing. "You sure she's yours?" The question hit harder than a slap. My daughter, my blood, years of stretching dollars to feed her. Nights rocking her through fevers alone, every sacrifice questioned in 4 careless words. "Yes," I whispered, voice tight. "Any proof?" he pressed. I had her birth certificate scanned on my phone, but my hands trembled so much I could barely unlock it. He watched like he enjoyed my struggle. Other officers glanced over not to help but to observe. Race hangs like scent, it attracts judgment like flies. While I searched through my files, he leaned toward Nia. "Sweetheart, is this woman really your mom?" My vision blurred with rage. Nia's lower lip trembled. "Yes, she's my mommy." He hummed like he didn't believe her. Then he lowered his voice, but not enough. "Kids get trafficked through here all the time." The world fell silent around me. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Trafficker, me? In front of my daughter? I felt every watching eye land on me like stones piled on my back. Shame crawled under my skin until I wanted to peel it off. My hands finally found the document image, and I thrust my phone forward like proof of humanity. He took it slowly, too slowly, dragging out every second like he wanted me to beg. I forced myself to stand straight even though humiliation bent me like wet cardboard. My voice wavered, but I held eye contact. "We're traveling for a conference. I'm a speaker," he snorted. "You, a speaker?" Those 3 words gutted me. He turned to the TSA agent and said loudly enough for the line to hear, "She says she's a speaker." Mocking, disbelieving, cruel, a few people chuckled. One shook his head like it confirmed something ugly he already believed. My daughter pressed into my hip, small and shaking. And that's when everything snapped inside me. Not into anger, into exhaustion. The kind that lives in your bones when you're tired of proving you belong where everyone else walks freely. Tired of explaining motherhood, identity, existence, but I swallowed it, like always. Because in America, a black woman angry is a weapon, a reason. So I stayed soft even while breaking. O'Donnell glanced at the email on my phone, even that he didn't seem to believe. The event invitation logo gleamed brightly, but he scrolled like it was fiction. "Never heard of it," he muttered. "You can check." "I know how to do my job," he snapped. My fists curled. If my daughter wasn't watching, I might have screamed. He radioed for backup. Backup for me. 2 more officers approached. My humiliation was now an attraction. People stood watching openly, phones recording. I wanted to disappear, but I couldn't leave. I had come too far, and something inside whispered, "Endure." Because storms only last until thunder learns your name. O'Donnell's voice crackled through his radio as if announcing a threat. A threat that apparently looked like me, a mother holding her child. 2 more officers arrived, posture stiff, eyes cold, hands near their belts like danger radiated from my skin. Nia's small fingers clung harder to mine, her nails digging into my palm. I didn't pull away. I needed the pain to stay conscious, to not collapse under the weight of eyes dissecting me. "Ma'am," one officer said, "we're going to need you to step into secondary screening." It wasn't a request. Secondary screening, the place where dignity went to be interrogated. I nodded because refusing wasn't an option. Even breathing wrong felt risky. I led Nia beside me, her bunny hazel dangling from her hand like it, too, was exhausted. As we passed, the line of travelers parted like I was contagious. Phones rose like lit cigarettes, burning their judgment into memory. Some filmed discreetly, others boldly. There is a kind of cruelty in watching a person fall without extending a hand. America knows that cruelty too well. We entered a glass-walled inspection area, transparent enough that everyone could spectate. A stage of humiliation. No curtains for mercy. "Place your bags on the table," O'Donnell ordered. Nia helped me lift our suitcase, her lip trembling so hard it quivered her beads. The officer tore the zipper open like he'd been waiting to strip away the last layer of my pride. Clothes I carefully folded spilled out, secondhand dresses, worn pajamas, travel snacks in Ziploc bags because airport food isn't made for wallets like mine. He dug through everything with gloved hands, tossing items aside like trash. My underwear landed on the cold floor. My cheeks burned. "Is all this yours?" he asked, tone dripping with accusation. "Yes," I whispered. "Of course it is," he muttered sarcastically. He pulled out a small envelope, the cash I saved for emergencies, $340 wadded from too many pockets. His eyes sharpened. "Carrying a large amount of cash, huh? That's interesting." Large, it was barely grocery money for a week. "It's for meals, transportation," he cut me off. "Where'd you get it?" My breath froze. Nia looked up at me, confused. Why did she have to hear me justify the right to feed her? "I work," I said softly. He scoffed. "Doing what?" "I'm a social worker, community advocate. I speak at." "Sure you do." Something inside me shattered so quietly no one heard it but me. He dumped the rest of the suitcase onto the table, coloring books, a tiny pink dress, my speech notes printed and highlighted until I memorized every word. Pages fluttered like broken wings across the metal surface. Words I wrote from trauma, from history, from survival, scattered under the hands of a man who thought I was less than human. A female officer approached Nia. "Sweetie," she said, kneeling, "do you know this woman? You can tell us the truth." Nia looked at me with wide eyes that begged me to save us. "I told you she's my mommy," she whispered, her voice cracked. That broke me more than any insult. They questioned my child again, digging into her trust like excavation. "Does she ever hurt you? Has anyone told you to say she's your mom? Are you safe?" "Safe? My daughter wasn't safe because of them." Nia's hands shook so badly she dropped Hazel. When she bent to pick it up, the officer gently stopped her. "It's okay, sweetheart, you can tell us anything." She backed away, eyes filling. I reached for her, an instinct stronger than survival. O'Donnell stepped between us. "You'll wait until we finish." I froze. He blocked me from my own child. My heart pounded like a trapped bird. I forced myself to breathe. "Please," I whispered, "she's scared." "That's what trafficked kids look like," he replied. The word trafficked echoed in my skull. My vision blurred with rage and helplessness. He turned back to me. "Turn around." "What?" I croaked. "Hands behind your back." A gasp rippled through the watching crowd. My stomach dropped to my knees. "No, please, you can't, my daughter." "Now," he barked, stepping forward. Panic surged like drowning. My knees buckled, but I forced them straight. Nia screamed, voice raw, "No, don't touch her. She's my mom. She's my mom." The airport fell silent. Even the luggage belt seemed to stop. But O'Donnell grabbed my wrist anyway, not gently, not professionally, like he wanted the world to see power-crushing softness. Cold metal touched my skin. A cuff clicked shut. I bit my lip so hard it bled. I did nothing wrong. Yet here I was, hands bound, dignity stripped. Tears blurred the world. "Please," I whispered, "my daughter needs me." "She'll be taken care of," he said. A different officer lifted Nia slightly by the arms to pull her aside. She screamed, a sound no mother forgets. Animal, broken, my soul left my body. I lunged out of instinct. "Don't you take her away from me." The cuff chain pulled tight. O'Donnell slammed me against the glass wall. My head hit with a dull thud, a collective gasp. Phones captured everything. I felt like prey. He leaned close, breath hot with contempt. "You should have cooperated from the start. Now we'll see who you really are." Blood trickled from my lip. I tasted iron and humiliation. For a moment, I wanted to disappear, to sink into the airport floor and never stand again. But Nia screamed again, pleading, desperate. "Mommy, Mommy, please." My spine straightened. Pain fueled me. Fear sharpened me. I locked eyes with my baby. "I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." Even cuffed, even bleeding, I stood, because mothers don't break. We bend until bending becomes armor. O'Donnell dragged me toward a holding room, every spectator watching like it was a public execution of dignity. I stumbled but stayed upright for Nia, always for her. We reached the holding room door. He opened it. Then everything shifted. A woman in a blazer rushed over, badge swinging around her neck. She looked alarmed, important, connected to something larger than this ugly scene. "What's going on here?" she asked sharply. O'Donnell answered confidently, "Possible trafficking situation." "Suspicious documents." "Cash, child uncertain." The woman glanced at my phone still on the table, the open email. Her eyes widened. She looked at me, really looked. "Are you," her voice softened, stunned. "Are you Ariana Carter?" My breath caught. She recognized my name. Before I could respond, she turned to the officer's, voice crisp like thunder. "Uncuff her, immediately." O'Donnell blinked. "Excuse me, you heard me, now." Her tone was ice, authority, command. Confusion rippled. The crowd sensed a shift, a tension, a turning tide. O'Donnell hesitated, then slowly removed the cuffs. Metal slid off my wrists like shackles falling from history. Blood flowed back, pain tingled. Freedom tasted like disbelief. The woman's voice carried through the airport. She is a keynote speaker for the National Youth Advocacy Conference. The entire board is waiting for her arrival. Silence. Then whispers spreading like fire. Suddenly, every eye that judged me was now realizing something. The humiliation was not the end. It was the before, and the after was coming for all of them. Hard. For a second, nobody moved. The officers stood frozen, like statues carved out of arrogance, suddenly realizing they might crumble. My wrists throbbed where the cuffs dug into skin, red circles blooming like bruised memories. I rubbed them gently, not just for the pain, but because feeling them reminded me I was free again. Free, but not healed. Nia ran to me the moment the cold metal released. She collided into my body with a sob that shook her small frame. I dropped to my knees and wrapped her so tightly I felt her heartbeat against mine, fast like a frightened bird. "Mommy," she cried into my shoulder, "why were they mean? Why did they take you?" I couldn't answer. My throat was thick with tears I refused to let fall. If I cried now, they'd think it was weakness. But my tears weren't weakness, they were gasoline. And this moment was the match. The woman in the blazer knelt beside me, voice tender but trembling with fury directed at everything around us. "I am so sorry for what you went through," she said softly. "My name is Dr. Elaine Harper. I'm with the conference board. We've been waiting for you." Her apology should have soothed me, but humiliation doesn't melt that easily. It lingers like smoke after a house burns down. You can rebuild, but the smell haunts you. The crowd around us shifted. Eyes that once judged now looked guilty, or worse, curious, as if my suffering was entertainment with an unexpected plot twist. I felt their stares crawling over me, hungry for the rest of the show. O'Donnell stepped forward, clearing his throat, puffing his chest like the decision to uncuff me had been his. "It was just protocol," he said, voice stiff. "She was acting suspicious. Lots of cases like this. Can't be too careful." Protocol. Suspicious. Words used to justify violence dressed as safety. Dr. Harper turned to him sharply. "Suspicious? She was literally on your VIP clearance list. We didn't see that. You didn't look," she snapped. His jaw twitched. For the first time, uncertainty cracked his authority. Another officer chimed in defensive. "She had cash, and the child is her daughter." Dr. Harper's tone could slice steel. "And questioning a child like that?" she continued, voice rising. "Separating a mother from her daughter without cause, slamming her against a wall." "Is that protocol too?" The officers exchanged glances, that silent dance of panic and denial. I didn't move. I just held Nia, inhaling the scent of her hair, coconut oil, and childhood. Her tiny fingers fisted the fabric of my blouse as if letting go might break the world again. Dr. Harper helped us both stand. My legs felt unsteady, like grief was liquid and my bones were trying to stay afloat. She took my phone, raised it to the officer's face. "You see this logo. You see who sent this email? Ariana Carter is not just a speaker, she's our closing keynote, national broadcast, sponsors, press coverage. She's being honored for her work with underprivileged youth, and you treated her like a criminal." Gasps fluttered through the watching crowd. A few people lowered their phones now, but some kept recording, sensing history instead of scandal. O'Donnell's ears reddened. "Look, I was doing my job. If she would have cooperated calmly," calm, the word detonated inside me. Calm after accusations, calm after being caged like suspicion. Calm while my child was held away from me. Calm is what oppressed people are told to be while they're crushed. Calm is obedience dressed as survival. I lifted my head slowly, looking him in the eye for the first time without fear. My voice came out raw, trembling with held-back storms. You pinned me to a wall in front of my daughter. You called me suspicious because of my skin, because of the way I look. You humiliated me, stripped my dignity, made my child cry, and you want to talk about calm? His mouth opened, then shut. The hallway felt suffocating, thick with tension and shame, but not mine anymore. Theirs. Dr. Harper straightened. Airport management will hear about this. Immediately. One of the officers stepped back, as if afraid to be too close when accountability arrived. A staff member approached timidly, voice shaking. "Miss Carter, we didn't know. We're so sorry." Sorry. The cheapest bandage for the deepest wounds. But I nodded because if I fought every apology with fury, I'd drown in anger. And I still had a speech to give, a flight to catch, a purpose bigger than this pain. A manager arrived next, suit, clipboard, fear in his eyes, the kind of fear that comes from lawsuits or headlines. "Ms. Carter," he began, "please allow us to offer you lounge access, expedited ray check, first-class upgrade, anything you need. We deeply regret." I raised my hand. His words died like a car engine sputtering out. "First," I said, voice low but unshakable, "I want my daughter to hear from the man who handcuffed me that she did nothing wrong, that I did nothing wrong, and that people who look like us deserve to be here." The crowd hushed. Even the airport announcements seemed to fall silent. All eyes turned to O'Donnell. Nia stared at him with red, tear-swollen eyes. A child shouldn't have to wait for justice, yet here she was, holding her breath for it. O'Donnell swallowed. Hard, the badge on his chest suddenly looked heavy. He crouched slightly, awkwardly, not respect, but necessity. "Nia," he said stiffly, "your mom didn't do anything wrong. I made a mistake." It wasn't good enough. Regret tastes different when forced. But Nia looked up at me as if she'd won something important. I brushed her cheek with my thumb and smiled, small but real. Dr. Harper squeezed my shoulder. "We need to get you to your gate soon. There's press waiting." They've been preparing a welcome reception. A welcome reception. For me, the same woman who was just treated like a crime scene. It felt unreal, like two worlds colliding so violently my heart struggled to choose which reality was true. As we gathered our scattered belongings, O'Donnell bent to pick up my crumpled speech pages. He hesitated, then handed them to me with a weight in his eyes, confusion, guilt, fragility of power. I took them without a word. Walking through the airport now felt different, the same stairs, but heavier, layered with recognition, shame, awe. People stepped aside not out of fear, but respect or regret. A few whispered apologies I was too tired to absorb. A couple of women offered tissues. A man bowed his head as we passed. Yet even with justice crawling toward me, something inside still trembled. Humiliation doesn't vanish with apology. Trauma lives in echo. But I held Nia's hand, tighter than ever, her tiny fingers interlaced with mine like we were stitching ourselves back together. And as we walked toward the gate, one truth settled deep in my bones. Sometimes the world breaks you right before it realizes it should have bowed instead. This was only the beginning of their realization, because they didn't know what was coming next. They didn't know my name was about to thunder through every speaker in that terminal. Loud, unavoidable, undeniable. The walk back through the terminal felt like passing through a battlefield after surviving the war. People pretended to be busy with phones, baggage, boarding passes, but I could feel eyes trailing behind me like ghosts of judgment they wished they could take back. They looked, then looked away, then looked again. Shame changes the way people stare. Before, it was suspicion. Now, it was recognition and fear of being on the wrong side of history. Nia held my hand tightly, but her steps were lighter. She kept glancing up at me as if checking whether I was whole again. I wasn't, but I was standing. Sometimes that's enough. Dr. Harper guided us through security with authority that cut through air like a blade. Officers parted, TSA agents straightened posture, ropes were lifted. A few supervisors whispered urgently into earpieces as we passed. It was strange. Hours earlier, I was treated like an intruder. Now, doors opened without being touched. We reached the private TSA checkpoint reserved for special guests. A sign read authorized personnel only, the same kind of sign that once meant not you. Today it meant exactly you. A woman in uniform approached, her face flustered, voice soft with remorse. "Ms. Carter, please step right through. No need for further screening. We're deeply sorry for earlier." She didn't say what earlier meant. Nobody had to. The humiliation still clung to my skin like sweat. I placed my bags on the metal counter. She hurried to grab them instead. "We'll handle this," she said, almost pleading. I nodded because I didn't have energy for more words. Power shifts don't feel like triumph when the wound is fresh. They feel like anesthesia after surgery, relief wrapped around ache. A security supervisor leaned forward. "For the record, Ms. Carter, we are conducting an internal investigation. Officer O'Donnell's conduct violated protocol." Protocol. Amazing how they remember the rulebook once someone important is watching. I swallowed hard. "He handcuffed me in front of my child. You all watched." No one tried to defend it. Silence was their confession. We continued walking. Nia tugged my sleeve. "Mommy, are we still going to your speech?" Her eyes were wide, but her voice held hope, fragile like glass. She had seen me broken, and she needed to see me rise. Children remember the moments we fail to stand. I couldn't let hers be one of them. I managed a small smile. "Yes, baby, we are." Her face lit with relief, wiping away the last smudges of fear in her expression. The wound in my chest eased just a little. The escalator carried us toward Gate C-27, conference delegates check in. At the bottom waited a carpeted entrance with banners of global speakers, philanthropists, scientists, advocates, faces of changemakers from around the world. And one spot remained covered with a dark cloth, my photo hiding beneath it. My name waiting to meet the world. Dr. Harper leaned closer as if sensing my thoughts. "They wanted to unveil it when you arrived," she said. "None of us imagined your entrance would happen like this." I breathed deeply. The memories of the hallway, the cuffs, the cold wall pressed against my cheek, they replayed behind my eyelids like bruised film strips. My dignity hadn't returned fully, but something else had taken root. Resolve. A staff member approached, suited, polished, nervous smile. "Ms. Carter, we've arranged a private holding room before your media briefing." He glanced at Nia. "Snacks and toys for your daughter as well." Nia beamed. "Snacks?" Her voice cracked through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. We followed him through a glass corridor that overlooked the main terminal. Hundreds of travelers moved below us, rushing, waiting, living ordinary lives unaware of the storm brewing above their heads. Inside the private lounge, everything felt too calm, almost unreal. Soft leather sofas, fruit platters, bottled water aligned like soldiers. A TV played muted news. A children's corner with crayons and coloring books sat near the window. It felt like stepping into the world they believed I belonged to only after proving I survived the one they assumed I came from. Nia ran to the table, grabbing a mini apple juice box. "Mommy, they have animal crackers," I smiled. Small joys rebuild big hearts. I sat down slowly, exhaling the tension trapped in my spine. My phone buzzed, messages exploding like fireworks. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. Texts, calls, social notifications, most from unknown numbers, journalists, advocates, parents, former students I helped. People who looked like me, people who didn't. One text stood out from my son's old teacher, Mrs. Hayes. "I saw the video. I'm crying. Proud of you. Speak your truth tonight." Another from my former boss. "They tried to break the wrong woman." My chest tightened. I wiped a single tear. Not from hurt, but from the weight of being seen again. Dr. Harper approached, voice gentle but firm. "We'll escort you to the main hall soon. The committee is preparing for your entrance. National press is here. They want your statement before the keynote." "Statement?" I echoed, my throat tightened. I don't even know what to say. She knelt so her eyes met mine, a gesture I hadn't realized how deeply I needed. "Ariana, you say what they tried to silence. You say what every Black mother who has ever been humiliated at an airport, a store, a school, anywhere needs to hear." My heartbeat slowed, steady, purpose replacing pain. She squeezed my hand. "You survived, now transform it." Before I could respond, a knock sounded on the door, 3 sharp taps. The manager stepped inside. "Ms. Carter, they're ready for you." Ready for me. The same woman dragged like a criminal. He continued. "Security will escort you through the main terminal. It's the fastest route to the stage area. There will be cameras." Cameras. The humiliation that was once private pain would now become public truth. We stepped out. 2 security officers, different ones, flanked us protectively. Not restraining. Guarding. The difference tasted powerful. As we approached the main concourse, I could already hear murmurs rising like electricity, travelers slowing, phones lifted, whispers spreading like wildfire. "That's her. The woman from earlier." "Is she the keynote speaker?" Oh my God, look. The air thickened. Anticipation, disbelief, all blooming where judgment once rooted. Then a chime echoed through the airport speaker system. That familiar soft tone before announcements. Only this time the world wasn't about to board Flight 237 to Chicago. It was about to witness a resurrection. The terminal fell quiet. Heads turned upward. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Even rolling suitcases seemed to hush. A voice came through, warm, authoritative, unmistakable. "Attention passengers. Please welcome to the main terminal." My pulse hammered. Nia squeezed my hand. "Humanitarian award recipient and keynote speaker." Gasps scattered through the crowd. "Ms. Ariana Carter." My name wasn't spoken. It was declared. Loud, clear, inescapable. A wave of realization rippled across faces that had watched me get dragged, watched, judged, recorded. Now those same faces softened, widened, reddened with shame or admiration. Some lowered phones. Some raised them for redemption instead of humiliation. My throat tightened. My eyes burned. This wasn't victory. Not yet. This was the beginning of accountability. A spotlight turned into a mirror. As we began walking forward, the crowd parted like water, not clearing space out of suspicion, but respect. Step by step, humiliation melted into power. And as the applause began, small at first, then swelling, I realized something that made my heart tremble. They weren't just welcoming me. They were witnessing me, not as a criminal, not as a suspect, not as inconvenience, as a woman who refused to stay silent. This was my moment, not to erase what happened, but to rise because of it. The world will hear everything they tried to silence. I didn't stand up right away. For a moment, my brain refused to process the sound of my own name echoing through the airport speakers like thunder rolling across the ceiling. We kindly request the presence of Dr. Alana Brooks in the International Arrivals Hall. VIP welcome ceremony is ready. Repeat, Dr. Alana Brooks. It rang again, clearer, louder, impossible to mistake. The air shifted like time itself hiccuped. Heads slowly turned. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Suitcase wheels stopped rolling. Even kids chewing candy paused with mouths half open as if the world pressed mute on everything except that name, my name. Officer Bradley blinked once, twice, confusion twisting into disbelief. I stood shakily, legs weak, palms sweating. Was this real or some cruel dream my brain invented to survive humiliation? My heart hammered, my throat thick, eyes stinging. Maya whispered, voice tiny like broken glass. "Mommy, they said your name?" I nodded, breath trembling. "I heard, baby, I heard." The officer's jaw tightened, ego-fighting realization. "Must be a coincidence," he muttered, scoffing nervously. "You expect me to believe you are some VIP guest." His voice no longer thundered, it cracked. Fear lived behind his eyes now. I felt something heavy and buried inside me stir. Not anger, not yet, something older. Something tired of swallowing pain and smiling through wounds. Something ready to breathe. I lifted Maya into my arms. "Let's go," I whispered. We stepped forward and the crowd parted like water around a ship. Every eye followed us. Some with guilt, some with shock, some with that same silent judgment, now scrambling to re-evaluate everything they assumed about me. Officer Bradley walked close behind, hand hovering near his holster like he still needed control. Like respect wasn't something he could give without force. But this time, he wasn't leading me. He was following me. We reached the glass doors between security and the arrivals hall. They slid open and light spilled in like we walked into another world. Clapping, cameras, bright flashes, news mics, banners, flowers, a red carpet rolled out from the gate to the podium. I felt my knees nearly buckle. What was happening? A woman in a navy suit rushed forward, not walked, rushed, eyes wide with relief. "Dr. Brooks, we've been waiting for you. The keynote has been delayed just so we could start the ceremony with your arrival." She embraced me respectfully, not like a suspect. Like someone who mattered. Maya clung to me, but this time with awe, not fear. The woman continued, her voice carrying warmly, "We're honored to welcome the winner of this year's International Humanitarian Impact Award. Your work with single mothers across the country has changed lives. Everyone is here for you." My breath hitched. The award, the speech, the article that went viral. The nonprofit I built from nothing, funded by night shifts and selling old furniture. The program that got attention from activists and senators alike. It suddenly collided into this moment. The crowd applauded again, deafening, beautiful. Officer Bradley stood behind me stiff, pale, shrinking into invisibility even though everyone could see him. A journalist lifted a mic toward me. "Dr. Brooks, we noticed you seemed delayed. Everything all right?" My eyes flicked to Bradley. He froze. I felt Maya's small hand squeeze mine. Her eyes looked up to me like this was the moment she'd remember forever. And I finally found my voice. My throat was raw. My ribs hurt from holding in tears all day, but I spoke. "Everything is fine now," I said slowly, voice shaking but firm. But I was stopped, questioned, accused, humiliated, in front of my daughter for one reason. Silence fell like a dropped stone. I let it hang, let it hurt. I took a step forward, placing myself on the red carpet fully where I belonged. Because I didn't look like someone worthy of respect. Gasps rippled through the hall. Phones raised higher, recording every second. Bradley swallowed hard. My voice strengthened, pain turning into power. I was treated like a criminal. My daughter was frightened. My work, my credentials, my humanity meant nothing because I am a Black woman traveling alone with a child. My chest burned, but with truth, not shame anymore. I don't want punishment. I want accountability. Not just for me, but for every mother who has been treated as less. Every person whose dignity was taken because of assumptions, uniforms, or power misused. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Say it louder." Cameras flashed like fireworks. The woman in the suit stepped beside me, supportive. She turned toward Bradley, voice sharp but controlled. "Officer, your badge number, please. Airport authority will handle this immediately." His confidence collapsed. I didn't know. I faced him directly. And God, it felt different now. To look into the eyes of someone who once towered over me and know he couldn't hide behind authority anymore. "You didn't care to know," I said quietly. "And that's the problem." His eyes dropped to the floor. Maya tugged my shirt gently, whispering, "Mommy, are you okay?" I knelt, eyes meeting hers, wiping away her tiny tear. "I am now," I whispered, "because you see me. And the world finally does too." The airport erupted in applause, louder than before, thunderous, alive. People who watched with silence earlier now clapped with guilt and admiration mixed together. Some looked ashamed. Some cried. Some recorded as if witnessing history. For the first time that day, I felt tall. Not because they cheered, but because I survived. The suit woman guided us toward the stage area for the ceremony. As we walked the red carpet, Maya's little chin lifted high, pride blooming where fear once lived. I felt my old self, the one who fought through nights of hunger, bills, exhaustion, loneliness, rise like a phoenix inside me. I turned once more. Bradley watched, regret heavy in his eyes. He didn't speak. He just stood there, powerless, as I walked away. Toward lights, toward recognition, toward justice, toward the part of my story where I finally get to win. The hall was bright, golden, overwhelming, chandeliers glimmering like stars scattered across the ceiling. A massive backdrop displayed the event name in bold silver letters. Global Humanitarian Award Ceremony honoring lives that change lives. My heart raced. But this time it wasn't fear, it was something warmer. Something I had forgotten I could feel. Pride. People rose from their seats as I entered. Camera flashes burst like applause made of light. Murmurs spread, not whispers of suspicion now, but recognition. That's her. The keynote speaker. She was detained? Oh my God. Someone filmed it, it's already online. Already, my humiliation was turning into evidence, into truth nobody could deny or rewrite. A young woman approached, shaky voice filled with guilt. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up earlier, I should've, I froze." I didn't hate her, I couldn't. Fear paralyses good people too. Silence isn't innocence, but sometimes it's survival. "It's okay," I whispered. "Just don't stay silent next time you see someone hurting." Her eyes shined. She nodded. That was enough. A stage official placed a delicate orchid bouquet in my free arm. Maya traced the petals like they were magic, because maybe they were, not just flowers, symbols. Of the moment life turned, we reached the podium. A microphone stood waiting like a door I needed to walk through. The room hushed. Thousands of eyes, media lenses, live broadcast screens, people from dozens of countries, all looking at someone they once would have walked past without seeing. I inhaled slowly. My voice trembled, but not with weakness, with truth. Today, I didn't think I'd be standing here like this. Silence thickened, hanging onto every word. I arrived just like any mother, tired, anxious, carrying more responsibility than sleep. I didn't ask for special treatment. I only asked for dignity. My voice deepened, heavy with the weight of the morning. But instead, I was treated like a threat. My daughter was treated like luggage. And my humanity disappeared the moment someone decided I didn't look like I belonged. Maya held my hand, small, warm, anchoring me. I continued, louder now. Not because I did anything wrong, not because I broke a law, but because of my skin, my motherhood, my existence. Eyes watered across the room. Men shifted uncomfortably. Women nodded painfully, recognizing the story even if it wasn't theirs. "That officer may have stopped me," I said, "but he didn't stop my purpose." Screens behind me displayed pictures, my community work, shelters we built, food drives, mother support groups. Women with babies on their hips smiling with hope where despair once lived. My voice grew stronger, rising like a tide. I stand here not for revenge, but for change. For every woman who swallowed humiliation to survive the moment. For every Black mother who tightened her jaw and said nothing because speaking meant risk. For every child who watched their parent shrink under judgment and believed that silence was safety. The room exhaled as if my pain became theirs. We deserve travel without fear, love without suspicion, voices without punishment. Then I paused, and I could feel the moment balancing on the edge of history. In a world where power is given so easily to some, let dignity be given just as easily to all. Applause erupted, first scattered, then thunderous, unstoppable. People stood, clapping until palms reddened. Some cried openly. Some held their children closer. Some filmed to make sure this message lived beyond the room. The host stepped forward, wiping his glasses. "Dr. Alana Brooks, it is our honor to present you this year's Humanitarian Impact Award for your relentless work empowering single mothers across the nation." A shimmering crystal trophy was placed in my hand, heavy, beautiful, unreal. Maya stared at it like it contained every dream she ever had. Then, the moment nobody could escape, the one the world waited for. Airport security officials escorted Officer Bradley in front of the stage. He walked like his boots weighed 100 pounds. His face drained of color, shoulders no longer squared with arrogance but folded with consequence. He stopped beneath the spotlight, but this time not as the authority, as the accountable. A senior official spoke into the mic beside me. After reviewing witness testimony and surveillance footage, Officer Bradley is hereby suspended pending formal investigation for misconduct, racial profiling, and violation of protocol. Gasps. Cameras exploded in flashes. Bradley's eyes glistened, whether from shame or fear, I don't know. He stepped up, voice small, nothing like the man who towered over me hours ago. "I am sorry," he said, cracking. "I misjudged you. I shouldn't have treated you like that, or anyone. I was wrong." His words didn't heal, apologies rarely do, but they mattered. Accountability matters. I didn't smile. I didn't comfort him. That was not my job anymore. I simply nodded once and said softly, "Change starts with acknowledgement. Don't stop here." He swallowed hard, and for the first time I saw a human being instead of a uniform. But my attention returned to where it belonged, to my daughter. Maya tugged my sleeve, whispering into the mic without meaning to. "Mommy, I'm proud of you." The room melted. People cried real, broken, beautiful tears. A woman hugged her son in the back row. A man wiped his eyes, pretending allergies were to blame. I bent down, forehead touching Maya's. "I'm proud of us," I whispered, "because we kept standing." We took our final step together, onto a world that now knew our names for the right reasons. As applause thundered again, I looked across the hall at faces changed, at the journey from humiliation to honor, and realized I didn't just win an award. I reclaimed my voice. I walked in afraid of losing everything. I walked out with my daughter's pride, my dignity. My story no longer whispered but broadcast to the world. And when the doors opened again, cameras flashing and reporters calling my name, I held Maya's hand tight, not so she wouldn't lose me, but so the world would see exactly who I was walking forward with. A Black mother, a survivor, a leader, a woman who said no more. And for the first time in my life, people didn't look away. They followed.